Hello, I am Devina, and hello to all of you bold, beautiful, brilliant, and evolving souls. Today, I want to do a hopefully short video on toxic shame versus toxic guilt. Shame and guilt can definitely be intertwined and sometimes difficult to distinguish. Well, at least for me, sometimes they're so sort of blended together that they can be difficult to sort of separate out. But probably it's not that important to always know which is which. You can just identify it as shame and guilt because they definitely go together. Of course, shame is the more the feeling like I am bad versus guilt being something I did something bad. And it's toxic because um, these feelings like guilt is, I think, especially is meant to it's meant to be sort of helpful, right? Like um, without the toxic levels of it, it's supposed to be just like, oh, I feel guilty, and that makes me want to, make amends or apologize to someone because I've hurt someone or because I've done something to cause somebody suffering. But when our parents have shamed us and guilt tripped us and blamed us for, just absolutely anything and everything, then obviously we then have a tremendous amount of shame and guilt for no reason. That's why it's toxic, because there isn't anything wrong with us. And most of the time, we haven't done anything wrong. It's just like any small thing can feel like you've, done something horribly wrong. So I just want to tell you a little bit about how I would experience shame and then guilt. So I would describe being in toxic shame, and I've shared this before, being like a fish in water. So the fish only knows its life in water, and so it doesn't realize that it's actually in water. And this is what I've compared shame to, the toxic shame, because you grow up with this identity of I am shameful, I am inadequate, that it just becomes so much a part of who we are. The feeling becomes the identity, that it can just, you don't even know that it's there, even though it's there all the time, just like the water is around the fish all the time. Um, so it can, and I think for my whole life, it's influenced so much, well, pretty much everything, I guess. So much of my choices, my thoughts, my behaviors, um, because yeah, everything was coming from this, shame-based feeling of like, I am bad, I am unworthy, I'm undeserving. And so that affects obviously our whole lives until we start to wake up to realize that we are not shameful, that we actually feel ashamed because our parents shamed us, of course. Um, so when I feel shame, I can have a sense of being inadequate, unworthy, less than, despicable, useless, weak, a loser, a failure. I can feel like I'm falling short, falling behind where I should be. Um, and a big one is just like there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Shame tells me that I'm not enough, that I don't belong. It makes me feel like an outsider and an outcast. It dulls my perception of everything. And I've noticed this before, like when I briefly come out of a flashback and things can be really bright, shame dulls everything. It dulls my perception of everything and dampens my any joy, creativity, or flow. If you watch a child, they're just naturally in a flow, joyful and, exploring and learning. Shame will definitely, just dampen all of that. It can make me feel like I'm going through the motions, just getting things done. So it's just like, you're just on auto, just doing this and doing that. It's not like you're in the moment and just, you know, like I said, the flow kind of feeling. Um, It fills me with self-doubt and robs me of my confidence and my power. We can constantly just be, questioning ourselves and, you know, um, shame makes me feel terrified that I will be rejected or abandoned. Of course, this is the core of C-PTSD. We are shamed by our parents. We are not loved unconditionally. And then that causes us to feel terrified of their abandonment, afraid that they will reject us. And then we won't be receiving the care that we need, which of course is horrifying for a small child. Um, and now I'm going to talk about guilt. So again, toxic guilt, um, yeah, the levels of it are so much that it affects everything in our lives. Toxic guilt can make me feel like I'm getting it wrong, doing it wrong. I think that's been a thread. I Yeah, maybe it's faded a little bit, but I know it sometimes it's just like you're doing this wrong. It's just this kind of background sense of getting it wrong. It can make me feel fearful of getting in trouble or getting punished. So, like if you make a mistake at work or something, fearful that your boss is gonna like come in and start yelling at you or something. It can make me feel like I'm walking on eggshells, trying not to bother or upset anyone. It can make me say sorry and over apologize or over explain things. It can make me feel like I have to be perfect all the time and I can't make mistakes. Toxic guilt can magnify a tiny, small so-called error, like that's not even an error, it could be just the silliest of things, into feeling like I've committed a horrible crime and that I'm going to be like, again, like punished or like just get in like a, get in a lot of trouble. So those I think would that's how I would describe sort of the difference between the feelings of shame and guilt. And again, there's a lot of overlap there. Um, so yeah, anyway, I hope that is a little bit insightful, validating. Sometimes it's just important to name it as a feeling. Once you get it out there and you say it, even to talk to someone about like, I'm feeling ashamed, and then it can start to dissipate that feeling. So thank you always for being here. I'm wishing you many, many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And I'm Devina at Boldness Blooming.